Pence. I'm the governor of the state of Indiana. But in just 14 days, it will be my honor, with the support of the people of Ohio, to be elected to serve as the next Vice President of the United States of America. Couldn't be more grateful for the warm hospitality of Ashland University, of the whole team here. My friend Congressman Bob Gibbs, one of the great conservative voices on Capitol Hill. Bob and I served together when I was in the Congress, and he knows me well enough to know the introduction I prefer is a little bit shorter. I'm a Christian, a conservative, and a Republican, in that order. And I have to tell you, I joined this campaign in a heartbeat, because you have nominated a man for president who never quits, who never backs down. He is a fighter. He is a winner. And until very recently, it seemed like he was out there fighting all on his own. But now this movement is coming together. Ohio is coming together. And we're going to make Donald Trump the next president of the United States. You know, I really do believe Donald Trump embodies the spirit of America. Strong, freedom-loving, independent, optimistic, and willing to fight every single day for what he believes in, and he's going to fight all the way to the White House. You certainly saw that. You certainly saw that in his debate in Las Vegas just a couple days ago, didn't you? When he beat Hillary Clinton in that debate, hands down. You know, we had a little debate of our own in Farmville, Virginia just a couple of weeks ago, and some people think I won that debate for vice president. But I have to tell you, from where I was sitting, Donald Trump won that debate too. Donald Trump's leadership won that debate, and Donald Trump's vision to make America great again is going to win all the way to the White House come November the 8th. Because, you know, this election really is, it's come into high relief for people across Ohio and all across this country. It's not just a choice between two people. It's really a choice between two futures. So let me tell you where I stand. I choose a stronger America. I choose a more prosperous America. I choose an America that upholds the highest traditions of the Constitution of the United States of America. So I choose to stand with Donald Trump and every American who believes we can make America great again. You know, and it's not like it's exactly a fair fight out there. You know, I don't know about the rest of you, but ever since I joined this ticket, it's like I get up every morning, I got to turn on the television with a stick. I mean, I never know what's going to be on there. It's like the media's out there doing half of Hillary Clinton's work for her every day. But Donald Trump is still winning hearts and minds every day, and he's going to win all the way to the White House. I mean, the latest media story is the media is they're trying to roll up the campaign in this air of inevitability. Have you picked up on that? Right? They're trying to, Hillary Clinton's now reaching out to other states and this thing's over. But the truth of the matter is, don't be fooled, Ohio. We're leading in the Rasmussen poll. We're leading in the Investor's Business Daily poll. And we're leading in Ohio in the latest polls. This fight is on. I mean, she may have the media, the money, and the special interests on her side, but we've got everyday Americans on our side. And those Americans are going to make America great again. I believe it with all of my heart. You know, the truth of the matter is, and it's especially true with the national media, the American people are just tired of being told. Are you with me? I mean, we're tired of being told this is as good as it gets. We're tired of being told that you know, leaders in both political parties will get around to solving the problems this country's been struggling with for a generation or more. But they're just not going to get to it today. And we're tired of being told, as Ronald Reagan used to say, that some little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives better for us than we can plan them for ourselves. You know, Donald Trump has given voice to the voiceless in this country. He has stepped forward as a champion of the forgotten men and the forgotten women of this country who are tired of being told, who know that America can be stronger, America can be more prosperous, and he's going to lead them all the way to make America great again. You know, but the worst of the media is not their bias. The worst of the media is their willful ignorance about our opponent. I mean, truthfully, it is amazing to see the media go chasing after every day. Here's a statistic. I just came across this one. This is really amazing. Media Research Center just come out with this. That since the two national conventions, in the 12 weeks that have followed, okay, there has essentially been that Donald Trump has received a majority of the media coverage, but 91% of his coverage has been hostile. They must have missed the other 9%. But you know, it's not just, as I said, it's not just their bias, but it's the willful ignorance. I mean, here you had Hillary Clinton, when she's Secretary of State, in charge of all the foreign policy of the United States of America, have a private foundation that accepted contributions from foreign governments and foreign millionaires. And in the middle of that, she had a private server that, when it was discovered in the media that she had this private server to keep her emails and communications out of the public reach, she disposed of them with high technology and hammers to keep them away from the American people. But you know, truth is a force of nature, and it's just been coming out. We just found out last week that the FBI confirmed that the State Department under Hillary Clinton actually offered a quid pro quo to the FBI if they let her change the classification standard on private emails, some of which had to do with Benghazi. And then we found out after she said that all the decisions she made at the State Department were in the interest of the United States, now we have an email that shows that when they were rebuilding Haiti after the terrible earthquake in 2010, did you hear this? That actually they had an email that said, make sure that the friends of the Clintons are flagged for business contracts in rebuilding Haiti, and everybody else could go to the main website. You know, the American people are sick and tired of pay-to-play politics that benefits a favorite few in Washington, D.C., and Donald Trump is going to bring that pay-to-play politics to an end the day that he becomes president. Donald Trump's got a plan. Donald Trump's got a plan. You ought to take a look at a 100-day plan, part of which is going to be to focus on bringing honesty, accountability, and real change to Washington, D.C. We're going to ban congressmen from becoming lobbyists for 5 years, ban executive agency branch people from going out and lobbying. And here's a crazy idea. How about registered foreign lobbyists can no longer raise money for American political campaigns? Is that a stretch? Donald Trump has a plan to drain the swamp in Washington, D.C. and give us government as good as our people again. In fact, Donald Trump's got a plan. We're calling it the contract with the American voter. It's a deal he's willing to make with the American people to set this country right, set us back on a path to make America great again, a 100-day action plan for a stronger and for a safer America. And the contrast between our plan and her failed record couldn't be more dramatic. So in the time I have with the rest of you today, let me focus on those big, big issues. Because really and truly, I think this election here in Ohio and all across America is going to be decided on issues that affect our security, our prosperity, and affect the highest court in the land more than anything else. I mean, men and women, let's start with the security piece. Despite traveling millions of miles as our Secretary of State, it's undeniable. The world is more dangerous today than the day that Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama took over America's foreign policy. Our allies are less secure, our enemies are more emboldened. 7.5 years of the foreign policy that Hillary Clinton designed for this administration has weakened America's place in the world. I mean, if you look at a map of the wider Middle East today, and you look at a map of that same part of the world in 2009, it doesn't even look like the same area. History teaches us that weakness arouses evil. and the weak and feckless foreign policy of this administration of leading from behind, moving red lines, feigning resets with Russia, and paying ransom to terrorist sponsoring states is emblematic of that type of weak and apologetic foreign policy. Let me make you a promise. When Donald Trump becomes president of the United States, we won't be paying ransom to terrorist sponsoring states. They'll be paying a price if they threaten to detain the American people. You know, and it was Hillary Clinton. It was Hillary Clinton as Secretary of State that was responsible to renegotiate a status of forces agreement with the sovereign country of Iraq that would have allowed us to leave a sufficient number of American soldiers in Iraq to secure the hard-fought gains of Operation Iraqi Freedom. You know, I remember those days. Bob, you remember those days. 2005, 2006. People like Hillary Clinton were ready to throw in the towel in Iraq. But fortunately, we had a commander-in-chief who decided not to lose. He surged forces in Iraq, and the American soldier won the peace in Operation Iraqi Freedom. Won it. In fact, before I go one step further, I'm positive that there are men and women who've worn the uniform in recent years and in the distant past who are with us today. Would you just slide your hand in the air if you've worn the uniform of the United States of America? When I think of what the American soldier won in Operation Iraqi Freedom, and I think how it was squandered by this administration, pulled all of our forces out of Iraq by the end of 2012, created a vacuum in which the monstrous terrorist organization ISIS was able to overrun vast areas that had been won by the American soldier. It just breaks my heart. I mean, at this very hour, with our prayers, men and women, there are American special forces in harm's way trying to win back what Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama squandered in Mosul and in northern Iraq. Remember, it was Hillary Clinton who initiated that disastrous agreement with the radical mullahs in Iran. They got $150 billion, not counting the $1.7 billion in ransom. And all we got was a delay in their nuclear ambitions. And lastly, remember this, and I'll never forget it. It was Hillary Clinton and her State Department who left Americans in harm's way in Benghazi. And after four Americans fell, she told the families of the fallen at Dover Air Force Base that it was because of a filmmaker in the United States, even though Congress would find out that the night of the attack, September 11th, she sent an email to her own daughter that said it was a terrorist-style Al-Qaeda attack. You can take a look at that movie, the movie that's out right now, 13 Hours. Don't be mistaken. Hillary Clinton didn't send help in 13 hours. She never sent help. She never sent help. And after it was all over, when Congress confronted her, testifying before the Senate about what she'd said and what she'd done, she literally said, quote, "Of those four fallen Americans, what difference at this point does it make?" Let me tell you something. As the proud father of a United States Marine, anybody who said that, anybody who did that, should be disqualified from ever serving as Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the United States of America. That's right. In addition to bad judgment, we've seen bad policies. We're at the lowest troop level for the U.S. Army since 1940. Smallest number of ships in our Navy since 1916. The average age of aircraft in our Air Force today is 27 years. And we purchased the least number of aircraft last year in the United States of America in any year since 1934. Men and women of Ohio, we cannot have 4 more years apologizing to our enemies, abandoning our friends, and embracing the kind of reckless cutbacks that embolden the enemies of our freedom. America needs to be strong for the world to be safe. And Donald Trump will lead on the world stage with American strength. Donald Trump will rebuild our military, restore the arsenal of democracy, give our soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines the resources and training they need to accomplish their mission and come home safe, and we will hunt down and destroy ISIS at its source so it can no longer threaten our people. You know, that's probably why more than 200 retired generals and admirals, including more than 20 Medal of Honor winners, have endorsed Donald Trump to be the next Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the United States. You know, but it's not just about security abroad. It's about safety at home and safety in our streets. You know, men and women, I have to tell you, my uncle was a cop, a career cop in Chicago, Illinois. This is a very challenging time for families in law enforcement. It seems like every time a tragedy happens when a police officer is performing their duties, there are many on the left and frankly many liberals in public life who are quick to use a broad brush to assume the worst, to demean all of law enforcement. Some people actually talk about law enforcement like it's a force for division in our society. Well, Donald Trump and I think different. We think the men and women who serve bravely in law enforcement are a force for good in America. They are the best of us, and they deserve the support of all of us. You know, we got a lot of members of the law enforcement community who are here with us today. Would you mind just showing how much you appreciate the men and women in law enforcement and their families and all they do for us every day? Let me make you a promise. As the Chief Law Enforcement Officer of the United States of America, President Donald Trump will support our law enforcement community at every level. We will provide them with the resources and training they need to protect our families, go home safe to theirs, and we will restore law and order to every city and every community in the land. Hillary Clinton wants open borders. That's the speech she gave in Brazil. Donald Trump will end illegal immigration, and we will get the dangerous criminal aliens out of our cities and out of our country. Hillary Clinton wants to increase the Syrian refugee program from that war-torn country, despite the fact that our security officials say we can't know for sure who those people are. Donald Trump and I will immediately suspend immigration from countries and territories that have been compromised by terror. In a word, Donald Trump will uphold the law and put the safety and security of the American people first. That's probably why the 330,000 members of the Fraternal Order of Police have endorsed Donald Trump to be the next president of the United States. You know, it's not just about security and safety. It's also about our prosperity. I mean, I can honestly tell you, whatever progress you've made here in Ohio, whatever progress we've made next door in the Hoosier State, is in spite of what's been coming out of Washington, D.C., not because of it. I mean, we're in the weakest recovery since the Great Depression. Nearly 1 in 4 Americans in their prime earning years isn't even working. 1 in 5 households in the strongest economy on earth, 1 in 5 households has no one with a job. 45 million Americans on food stamps, 47 million Americans living in poverty today. Hillary Clinton's plan? More of the same. Not just the same, more of the same. She wants to raise taxes by $1 trillion, increase regulations, increase the size and scope of government. She said just the other day, I was on Laura Ingram's show this morning, she played an audio tape. Hillary Clinton said, quote, "Before they called it Obamacare, we called it Hillary Care." She actually went up to Canada, a socialist country. She went up to Canada and said that her idea was to have a Canadian-style healthcare system. Obamacare is just a down payment to Hillary Clinton. And more of the kind of trade deals like the deal her husband signed in NAFTA, more of the kind of trade deals that have caused jobs to leave Ohio and leave our country. You know, they tell us this economy is the best that we can do. But I think Ohio knows better. It's not the best we can do. It's just the best they can do. And when Donald Trump becomes president of the United States of America, we're going to put common sense, conservative principles into practice, and we're going to put America back to work again. We're going to do it. Donald Trump's got a plan. Donald Trump's got a plan. It looks a whole lot like a plan that our 40th president did back in the 1980s. Frankly, it looks a lot like what President John F. Kennedy did in the 1960s. With a re-elected majority in the House and the Senate, in Ohio, you are going to re-elect Senator Rob Portman to the United States Senate. Re-elect Congressman Bob Gibbs to a renewed Republican majority in the House of Representatives. We're going to work with the House and the Senate. We're going to cut taxes across the board for working families, small businesses, and family farms. We're going to do away with death taxes once and for all, and we're going to lower business taxes in America so companies in Ohio can create jobs and compete here in Ohio with companies all over the world. And because red tape is stifling economic growth, Donald Trump's going to do what I did over in Indiana 4 years ago. He's going to sign a moratorium on any new red tape when he becomes president. And he's going to repeal every single Obama executive order that is stifling growth and jobs in this economy. Every single one. And because Donald Trump and I believe that our vast natural resources are one of our greatest God-given blessings, the war on coal comes to an end on day one of a Trump-Pence administration. We're going to develop an all-of-the-above energy strategy, call forth the power of this nation, and drive an American recovery. And when Donald Trump becomes negotiator-in-chief, I'm telling you what, the man knows how to do a deal. When Donald Trump becomes negotiator-in-chief, we're going to renegotiate NAFTA. We're going to get out of this Pacific deal, and we're going to have the kind of trade deals that put the American worker first. Trade means jobs, but once again, under Donald Trump, it's going to mean American jobs. And lastly, with the heartbreaking news and Donald was just talking about this down in Florida today. The Obama administration actually called a press conference yesterday to announce that premiums under Obamacare are only going to go up about 25% next year. It's just incredible. It's heartbreaking. I mean, literally, Americans are seeing increases across the board. Places like Arizona and Colorado are seeing even much higher than that. But the basic plan's going up 25% in a single year. It's crushing American business. I mean, it is amazing. I remember those debates back on Capitol Hill. You know, I served in Congress for 12 years. I tell people if I only had 12 years left to live, I'd want to live it as a member of Congress, because that was the longest 12 years of my life. Bob will back me up on that. I mean, those were hard days. Nancy Pelosi passes Obamacare and said, quote, Nancy Pelosi said, we got to pass the bill to find out what's in it. Well, we found out what's in it. I mean, the focus was to try and lower the cost of health insurance, not grow the size of government, and they just did the opposite. It's heartbreaking. Even former President Bill Clinton the other day, did you hear what he said? Yeah. He said premiums are going up, coverage is going down. He said it's the, quote, craziest thing in the world. You know, even with the Clintons, sometimes truth happens. My personal favorite about this is President Obama's speech last week. Did you get downwind of this? Probably not. So he goes and gives a speech celebrating the 3rd anniversary of the kickoff of Obamacare. He actually compared Obama. You're going to think I made this up, and I didn't. He compared Obamacare to the Samsung Galaxy 7 phones, which have been known to spontaneously burst into flames. He did, didn't he? Yeah. No, here's the quote. Here's the quote. He said, quote, when one of these companies comes out with a new smartphone and it has a few bugs, what do? They fix it. They upgrade it. Unless it catches fire, then they pull it off the market. Well, what a coincidence, Mr. President, because that's exactly what we're going to do with Obamacare. We're going to pull it off the market so it stops burning up our wallets. And we're going to replace it. We're going to repeal Obamacare with this newly reelected majority in the House and the Senate. We're going to replace it not with Hillary Clinton's vision of Canadian-style health care, but we're going to replace it with the kind of health care reform that respects the doctor-patient relationship, that expands consumer choice and health savings accounts. We're going to focus on lowering the cost of health insurance, not growing the size of government. We're going to meet our health care needs with the power of the free market, not the government. That's the American way. So it's about security. It's about safety. It's about our prosperity and the opportunities that our children and grandchildren are going to have here in Ohio and all across America. But lastly, it's probably about something that might be even more profound and more lasting. You see, we're going to elect a president to serve a 4-year term, but that president is likely going to set the course and direction of the Supreme Court of the United States for the next 40 years. And you better think long and hard about that. You ought to talk to your neighbors and friends about that. I mean, I was at the debate the other night in Vegas. Had a good seat. I was right on the front row. Karen and I were sitting right there. I mean, I'm me to you from where Hillary Clinton and Donald were standing. She gets the very first question. It's on the Supreme Court. I mean, give Chris Wallace a lot of credit. He actually asked real questions that were of interest to the American people, didn't he? So he started off where he should have started off, with the Supreme Court of the United States. And Hillary Clinton, go back and look at it. Hillary Clinton, in her answer, took almost the entire 2 minutes before she ever mentioned the Constitution of the United States of America. In fact, she described her philosophy about the court. She used the word, she said that she wanted a court that represented a particular viewpoint. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm a governor now, but I used to be a representative. Under our system of government, the representative portion of the government is called Congress. The president also represents all the American people. What Hillary doesn't understand is we would just like a Supreme Court that is appointed and upholds the Constitution of the United States of America and settles the disputes that arise. That's what we want, all right? I mean, not rewriting the First Amendment, not rewriting the Second Amendment, but really upholding the Constitution as written. I mean, elect Hillary Clinton, and you better tell your neighbors and friends, you better get used to more unelected judges using unaccountable power to take unconstitutional actions. But elect Donald Trump as the next president of the United States. And you'll see men and women appointed to the highest court in the land and all of our federal courts who first and foremost will strictly construe the Constitution of the United States as written and uphold the God-given liberties that are enshrined there. The First Amendment, the Second Amendment. So for the sake of the rule of law, for the sake of the sanctity of life, for the sake of the Second Amendment to the Constitution, for the sake of all of our God-given liberties, Ohio, I just got a favor to ask you. Will you do all in your power the next 14 days to make sure that the next president making appointments to the Supreme Court of the United States is President Donald Trump? Will you do that? You know, the truth is, This election, the choice could not be more clear. It's change versus the status quo. Very simple. And I'll tell you what, they'll make you a promise. If you like your status quo, you can keep it. And they'll keep that promise. I mean, the truth is, Americans can elect someone who literally personifies the failed establishment in Washington, D.C. Or we can elect a leader who will fight every day to make America great again. That's what this choice is. So I need you to do your part. So I got a couple things to ask you, and then I'm going to go somewhere else. I meet myself coming and going, but I seem to be in a good mood because we're winning. So first ask, everybody. First ask. You know, when I was growing up, we just voted on Election Day, but it's different now. So I want you to just look. You already took a little bit of the day here. Okay? Ashland County Board of Elections is open for early voting Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. It is at 110 Cottage Street, number 106, Ashland, Ohio. It is 1 mile from here. Men and women, go vote. Go vote today. Let's go vote. Okay? Go vote. I mean, just go get it done, all right? No waiting. There might be if all of you go. But go vote. Go get it done. Because I've got a couple other things I'd like you to do in the next 14 days. As number two, I want you to tell somebody. I mean, I said at the beginning, you know, this is basically 2-on-1 out there, right? But it's amazing as you see the momentum building in this campaign. I think it's all emblematic of the fact that whatever the political class is saying, whatever the pundits are saying, whatever the little morning TV shows are saying, the American people are talking to each other. I mean, the American people are over backyard fences and outside drugstores and at places of worship and at work. People are stopping and they're talking to each other and they're telling them things can be different. America can be stronger. America can be more prosperous. We can be standing solidly on those constitutional traditions, and we can uphold the highest standards in the highest office in the land. So I want you to go tell somebody. And when you tell somebody, what I want you to do is, I want you to tell them what the stakes are in this election. I really am serious about this. Because I honestly believe this is the most dramatic choice in my lifetime. I mean, I think we're at, you know, as the poet Robert Frost said, you came to a path in the woods, and it came to a road, diverged in the woods, and he took the road less traveled by. I mean, the truth is, America's always taken the road less traveled by, the road of rugged individualism and personal responsibility and freedom under the law. But we have a choice now whether we're going to do two things. And again, I want to say to you, it's not between left and right even. It's not even between Republican and Democrat. I think it's as Ronald Reagan said back in 1964, it's a choice between up and down. It's a choice between up and down. And here it is, you talk to your neighbors and friends, say, I ran into Mike over at the rally thing at Ashland, and he told me this. It's whether we're going to continue to go down the hill to a weaker America on the world stage, more emboldened adversaries and competitors, turning our back on those that stand for our freedom, a weakened and stifled American economy, denying opportunities to our children and grandchildren, walking farther away from our constitutional ideals, or whether we are going to, in this moment, as Americans, stop, plant our feet, turn around, and march back up the hill to a stronger America at home and abroad, a more prosperous America, an America that stands firmly and without apology on our highest ideals. That's the choice that we have. So you got to go tell somebody. And tell somebody, but particularly there's one group I want you to reach out to here in Ohio. Because look, Donald Trump has spoken in ways that have won over independence across America. People that are sick and tired of the gridlock in Washington, D.C. and sick and tired of that pay-to-play system that benefits a favored few. Those independents are responding to Donald Trump's message. He's even won over a lot of Democrats here in the Buckeye State and all over this country with a message that we can turn back this avalanche of liberal policies coming out of Washington, D.C., big government and bad trade deals that have driven hundreds of thousands of jobs just in the automotive sector out of our country. But now I would say to all of you, now it's time. If, like me, if you come up in a tradition in the Republican Party, it's time to talk. It's time to talk to our Republican friends here in Ohio. And to say with one voice, it's time to come home. This is not the time to make a statement, it's the time to make a difference. It's time for Republican voters to come home. Come home to elect the Trump-Pence team. Come home to re-elect Senator Rob Portman and Republican majorities in the House and the Senate. And come home to make sure that Hillary Clinton is never elected President of the United States of America. It's time to come home. And lastly, so if you're taking notes, vote. And grab your neighbors and friends. Talk to somebody. Tell somebody what this is all about. And lastly, I just encourage you to have faith. Have faith. Have faith in the American people. That the American people are going to make America great again. This is the greatest nation on earth. It's the greatest nation on earth because I believe we have the greatest people on earth. People that believe in freedom. But challenge yourself. My running mate said eloquently in Gettysburg the other day that we needed to, quote, rise above the noise and the clutter of our broken politics and embrace the great faith and optimism that has always been central to the American character. So as you go and talk to your neighbors and friends in the days that remain in this campaign, just be confident. Be confident that the American people, given the choice, will choose strength. The American people, given the choice, will choose prosperity. And the American people, given the choice, will choose freedom every single time. And lastly, if you have a mind, exercise that other kind of faith. You know, I recognize this is a very challenging time in the life of our country. It seems like we're more divided today than any time in my lifetime. It seems like there's so few great causes that unite us as they once did. But, you know, in much more challenging times, the American people have gone to a well to draw strength. And I think we ought to think about going there again. So if you're inclined to bow the head and to bend the knee now, the next 14 days is a good time to do it. But, you know, I'm grateful. Some of the sweetest words I ever hear is when people say, I'm praying for you. They're some of the sweetest words Donald Trump ever hears. But let me tell you, I'm not so much talking about praying for people or praying for an outcome. I rather like what Abraham Lincoln said so many years ago during his time of trial. He said, when he was asked if he thought God was on his side, he said, I rather concern myself more with whether we're on God's side as opposed to whether he's on ours. So pray for our country. So pray for our country. Pray for this great nation, this last best hope of earth. All of the world looks with hope and aspiration to America. And just pray for our strengthening and pray for this time of decision. And when you do, pray with confidence. Because what's been true for thousands of years is still true today. That if his people, who are called by his name, will humble themselves and pray, he'll do like he's always done in much more challenging times. He'll hear from heaven. And he'll heal this land. This one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So men and women, we got our work cut out for us. You got 14 days to go. Ohio looms large in the nation's destiny, and that means you loom large. So leave here today. Reach out to your neighbors and friends, and I'll make you a promise. When you do that, I can assure you, that man is ready. This team is ready. This movement is ready. If you go out and make sure that Ohio is ready, we will make Donald Trump the 45th President of the United States of America, and we will make America great again. Thank you very much, Ohio. Let's go get it.